Well, Beijing has issued a threatening warning to the United States this afternoon over Washington's commitment to sell $1.62 billion in arms to Taiwan. $1.62 billion. A Chinese government spokesman responded on Twitter saying China was firmly opposed to the sale, which severely jeopardises China-US relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. It warned the US it would resolutely take legitimate and necessary countermeasures. Now, that could be code for putting further military pressure and strain on Taiwan, as it did after the visit to Taiwan by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Who knows? Meantime, only 3 days ago, in an incident that underscored the heightened tensions, Taiwan's military shot down a Chinese drone hovering over one of its island outposts just off the Chinese coast. Sky News special investigative reporter Jonathan Lea joins us right now, live from his hotel quarantine in Taiwan's capital, Taipei. Jono, you've only just arrived, I know, in the country, but what do you make of China's threats? Where could this be headed during the upcoming week, do you think?
Well, good evening to you, Chris. You'd have to think we're certainly in the darkest period of tension since the 1996 third Taiwan Strait crisis, and this has certainly surpassed that. There is a body of water which is effectively 180 kilometres, which divides Taiwan and also mainland China. Now, obviously, China, the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party, continues to make incursions over that median line. I actually read this morning that since the period of 1954 to the year 2000, they only breached that airspace on 4 occasions. Now, since August 6th, there's been almost 100. In fact, in the past 24 hours, some 12 jets or 12 planes have breached that median line. 2 of those were fighter jets. So we can certainly expect Chinese forces to continue pressuring and attempting to practice blockading mainland Taiwan for the foreseeable future. Now, that 4-part tweet was part of a spokesperson for the United States Embassy, or the embassy in the United States. It goes on to talk at length about the One China policy. Now, that One China policy, the United States is effectively a signatory of. It makes the point that there is really only one true Chinese government, and that takes in Taiwan. Now, separate from that, the United States also has a Taiwanese Act, which enables them to continue selling weapons to Taiwan. So we're in this very vague, very ugly area where nobody wants to upset the Chinese Communist Party, but everyone completely knows that if they don't support an independent Taiwan, they will continue to see a further breakdown in relations and inevitably the loss of the democratic nation. It's not officially recognised as a nation by the UN, but many of the Taiwanese people certainly believe they are.
Yeah, of course they do. This is also some indication of how the United States may defend Taiwan if need be. It looks like as if they could do it remotely. A $1.62 billion arms delivery to Taiwan sounds a lot like what the US has been doing for Ukraine. And in many ways, both nations face very similar threats, don't they?
Well, the great problem that both nations or both peoples face is that they have an authoritarian government threatening them with overwhelming force and power. Both are superpowers, really. And what we're always talking about now is asymmetric warfare. So if you're at home and you hear this term, what does it mean? It means you have the ability to use cheap, readily supplied weapons like missiles to bring down much, much bigger things like tanks, ships, planes. And this is what the United States is trying to pump into Ukraine and also now into Taiwan. It's certainly what the Australian government is talking about. So this money goes to things like anti-ship Harpoon missiles, 100 surf or air-to-air missiles to potentially bring down planes and bombers. But the bulk of the money also goes to radar. One of the large concerns is that what China has done is they've been able to normalise this body of water going across that median line. So Taiwan isn't effectively able to defend itself as quickly as what it once could. So Taiwan knows it needs to bolster its radar to know if a real Chinese attack is coming.
And Jono, it appears that Taiwan won't back off as Beijing flies drones into Taiwanese airspace either.
No, Tsai Ing-wen is the Taiwanese president. She's made it very clear that she expects her defence forces now to come up with a more proactive approach to removing or bringing down some of these drones. There is a small body of islands very close to the Chinese mainland called Jinmen. Now, a number of drones have approached that and circled military bases. Now, no one has said if they're actually Chinese drones or civil drones. They're so close you can actually stand on the island and see mainland China behind you. So it's been very clear, and the Chinese have pointed out that it shows how weak they say Taiwan's defence forces are. Taiwan doesn't want to exacerbate this situation, but they need to make sure that they can defend their own airspace and defend their own military secrets if they need to. But it's hard to see this situation getting better in the short term, Chris.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We look forward to you getting out of quarantine when you do, Jono. Thank you very much for your time. Jonathan Lea.
Thanks for your time, Chris.
Good on you, mate.